So it says the graph of blah, blah, blah was reflected in the x-axis and its image is shown. So this is something, the wording's a little bit different in that this equation here is not that graph. Up till now, most of our questions have been, this is the equation and the graph is shown, graph the image. But now it's telling us that the image is shown. So if we wanted to draw the original graph, we would have to unreflect. How would we, unreflecting would be just the same as reflecting originally, right? If this was reflected in the x-axis, does it make sense that the original graph was there? So we need to find an equation for that image graph, for the red graph. So I'm going to start writing, first of all, I'm going to start writing in red. If we reflect over the x-axis, which values are changing? The x values or the y values? So our negative has to be outside of the function because it's affecting our y values. Now, if f of x, if our original equation was what's in that blue box, then our red equation has a negative outside in front of whatever f of x is. And we can write f of x as 1 over negative 2x squared minus 0.5. Now, I had a good discussion with my morning class about this. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to simplify this equation, and I'm going to give you 3 options for simplifying it. I'm just going to write the answer 3 different ways, and I'm going to tell you what I did. And I'm going to tell you right now that it's a possibility that all 3 are right. It's a possibility all 3 are wrong. It's a possibility 1's right, 2's wrong, or 2 are right and 1 is wrong. So you have to pay attention and think, because this is, again, an algebraic skill thing that sometimes we make mistakes on. So I'm going to provide 3 different possibilities. Possibility number 1, I'm going to take that negative and I'm going to multiply it in, and I'm going to multiply it into the top, and I'm going to get negative 1 over negative 2x squared minus 0.5. So I multiplied that negative just to the top. Option number 2. I'm going to take that negative and I'm going to multiply it through everywhere. So I get negative 1 on the top, and I'm going to distribute it on the bottom, and I'll get negative 1 over 2x squared plus 0.5. And option 3, I'm going to take that negative and I'm just going to multiply it on the bottom. So I'm going to get 2x squared and distribute it just like I did on the last one. 2x squared plus 0.5. Are they all wrong? Are they all right? You feel like 2 are right and 1's wrong? Anybody feel like there's just 1 right? Yeah, some people are saying, yeah, I think maybe just 1 is right. Does anyone have a favorite color? So that one has to be right because it's your favorite color. Like, we come up with all sorts of different options. So we're multiplying the negative by a fraction. So what I'm going to do right now to help us think about this is I'm going to say, well, when you multiply by a fraction, you have to multiply the top and the bottom. Could I write that negative out in front as a fraction? Well, what did I do in the first one? I multiplied the top by negative 1, and the bottom I kept the same. Would you agree that that's the fraction that would be out in front? So if I multiply the top by a negative 1, the bottom stays the same, that's like having the fraction negative 1 over 1. Is that fraction the same as just a negative sign? Yes. So this one is good. What did I do on the second one? So I multiplied the top by a negative 1 and the bottom by a negative 1. Does that still make that a negative sign out front? Right? But can you see how you might be tempted to just multiply everything by that negative when it's just out there in front? So again, be careful with that, because this one is not right. And in the last one, I multiplied the bottom by a -1 and kept the top the same. And is that equal to a negative out front? Yes. So this one was right as well. So you say, oh, Mr. JR, which one do I have to write in the end? Well, if you wrote this original one, keeping the bracket and having the negative outside, correct. If you wrote the green one with a whole bunch of negatives, because that's the kind of person you are, correct. And if you wrote the last one because you wanted to be more positive, also correct. Chances are of all of those answers, which one would be preferred? It would probably be the blue one, looking for ways to make things positive, but all of those answers would be accepted on your final exam. But it's just good to see again those algebraic skills. One of the things that grade 12 pre-calculus does is we introduce something new, tiny little concept, like today, flipping something over this way, over that way. That's all today's lesson was. Can you imagine if I just said that? Today's here, free time now, I'm done. You be okay with that? So, but what happens then is we take that idea and we add all the algebra and all the things we've done before to that, and we get to practice those things. So what you're doing is you're making your old skills stronger by adding something new to it. Okay, the questions for this one are 7, 8, 9, and 12.